It was finally over. Not over, but we had detonated the bomb, and we could rest, but only for a little. We had no time for drinking or playing poker, considering half of the crew was dead and we were still separated from Blame and Christopher. After I fell asleep, in the middle of the day, as soon as my head hit a random couch, I woke up in the dead of night and walked out onto the deck with a bottle of beer I had snuck aboard. The sky was dotted with bright stars, with no light pollution this far out, and I could almost see the entirety of the Milky Way. It was eerily peaceful. Now without the explosions, gunfire, screams, gore, and flying human heads. That girl from the Super Soldier Task Force, Carly, was leaning on the railing, smoking a cigarette and looking up into the sky, probably having an inner monologue. Carly was my age, or a little younger, about 5'7" with long blonde hair in a messy bun with a strand that covered one of her green eyes and pale skin. She was wearing combat boots and a thin leather jacket over a black compression shirt and jeans, as was I. She was probably taking a break. I walked to the other side of the boat when Carly suddenly spun around and pulled a massive pistol on me, sighing and then holstering it when she realized I wasn't an eldritch god. "Damn, calm down, it's just me." Carly raised an eyebrow. "Me? I've never met you. So, who are you?" "Roger, and I'm pretty sure you're Carly, right?" "Bingo. You know, you shouldn't be up here. I'm pretty sure everyone was ordered to rest below decks beside the sentries." "Well, I took a midday nap and I can't fall asleep," I replied, walking over and sitting next to a puddle of blood, taking a sip and trying to count the stars. "Why are you up here? You sure aren't in full kit, and I'm also pretty sure smoking isn't allowed up here." "Neither is drinking," she replied, gesturing to the bottle in my hand. "Forget about it. Anyway, why the hell were you trying to shoot me?" She smirked. "Why not? You sounded like a threat." "Yeah, I become a threat when I'm drunk." "Figures you're too skinny to be a SEAL. How the hell did they let a regular guy like you come on here?" "Regular? I've killed hundreds of monsters. As for the reason why they wanted me here, I'm a marine biologist with certain connections to powerful members of your community." "That's crazy," she said, flicking the ashes. "So where are you from? You got that slight accent. What is it? Slavic, Irish, British?" "Mostly British, but I've got a bit of a Russian tone. I was in the British infantry before I came over here. Also, you're not that guy who brought his underage nephew on here, right?" Carly asked. "Underage would be a stretch. He's almost driving age. He can handle stuff. It's not a war crime, right? I'm pretty sure he already killed like a dozen guys." "Nah, I heard he's been on a previous incident. He was involved in some kind of school cult incident. Can't put my finger on it," Carly said. "Yeah, I was there, and he'd just killed an ancient god or something. You got any family? Around here or in Europe?" "Yeah, I got a few brothers running around and causing crap in the USA. I'm pretty sure I got like a dozen relatives in Siberia. Can't remember all that well. I lived with an SAS operator for a few years in the UK, though." "You?" "Yeah, basically all my family lives in Washington. I also live with my roommate who bullied the crap out of me in elementary school, and we're both bachelors, at least to my knowledge. I think Kyle might have some kids in Thailand he forgot about." "Do you have any plans if we make it through this?" Carly asked. I made the universal sign of my head exploding. "Is that any of your particular business? Or do you just love invading people's personal space?" "I like invading people's personal space." "In that case, no. I plan to live alone and continue fighting and studying monsters and my inner demons until I inevitably get killed or fall into a deep, dark depression." "Who says you'll die?" Literally everyone, but currently I've outlived everyone who's ever said that. Don't sweat it. Cully winked. I heard the statistics for people getting killed in action in this entire operation are only 4 in 10 people. Thanks for the confidence boost, I said. Nice talking to you. I'll see you around? Sure. If you stay alive long enough for me to give you my phone number. Good night, Roger. I walked back inside with a buzz running through my whole body, which may or may not have just been the alcohol. After walking back to the barracks, I jumped in my cot. I sighed, grinned, and waited for sleep to take me. Rise and shine, soldier. Zack pounded on my door and let himself in. Zack splashed a cup of ice water on my face, soaking my pillow and sheets. Screw you! I yelled, getting up and wiping my face off, infuriated. I felt something smash into the bottom of the ship, making me stumble as the gunfire and sounds of war brought me back to consciousness. Oh, Zack casually said. That must be our cue. Pop the sleep out your eyes and get the hell up. We got work to do. With that, I grabbed my water bottle and ran to the armory and picked up an M4 carbine, an assault pack, and a plate carrier full of extra magazines, 2 sidearms, and some grenades. The armory in this vessel of destruction was packed full of different fighters picking out their weapons, including Goliath, who had broken his giant greatsword after it failed to cut through a demon's skull. Everyone ran out to the deck, aiming their guns at the water in a strangely nostalgic way. Or maybe I was immersing myself too much in the sheer violence of this operation. We could feel multiple things bumping and slamming into the bottom of our ship, but nothing attacked. And that was the same for all the other ships. When suddenly, what I could only describe as a entity slammed onto our deck, killing at least 5 people in the process. The thing was more grotesque and horrifying than anything I'd ever seen, turning my blood to ice as soon as I laid eyes upon it. It was at least 12 feet tall, with a humanoid torso and 2 arms jutting out from the shoulders, with at least 5 thin arms jutting out from random areas of its body. Its head was round and opened up into a gigantic hinged maw of disgusting black teeth, and had no eyes anywhere on its head, instead having a strange bleeding symbol carved onto its forehead. The monster's head had a large crown of giant antler-like protrusions and horns. Its torso ended in a long, slender mass of pale squirming flesh, with rows of spines and long appendages sticking out, including multiple of tentacles supporting its lower body, tipped with sharp spikes. Its body had pale skin, and it was covered in carvings of ancient languages and writings. It roared, sending chills down my spine as I shouldered my rifle and prepared to unleash pure wrath on this disgusting abomination of nature. It was pelted with grenades, gunfire, bombs, fire, and machine guns, but it didn't even seem to be affected fatally. It seemed the closer we got to Gothelku himself, the more messed up and harder to kill his minions got. Goliath walked forward and raised his short machete, using his entire body to swing his machete full force into the creature's face while it just stood there, as the blade shattered on impact. The monster looked at Goliath and grinned. Goliath took a step back, knowing he was screwed. The monster grabbed the enormous man and slammed his face into the ground, easily breaking his skull and turning his head into minced meat. That was when I knew we were the most fucked we had ever been in the history of people being fucked in fucked situations. Goliath was extremely durable and was supposed to be able to withstand most civilian-grade bullets and explosives without a second glance, and could regenerate lost limbs very quickly and could move extremely fast, but was killed with ease by this fucking demon. What the shit? I whisper-screamed to Zack, trying not to draw the monster's attention. I need to stall it before our cavalry arrives, Zack said, turning off his radio. Watch this. What? I realized what he was doing. What the hell, Zach? Are you insane? Zach walked out into the middle of the deck, making some sort of sign language symbol or gang sign I was not familiar with, but had seen some of the members of the Order of colossal do, which immediately caught the monster's attention.
You,
the monster said.
Why are you on this ship? Shouldn't you be with the rest of the Order?
I'm greatly honored to be in the presence of Kalgoth, Zach said, apparently knowing the monster's name. It is not every day that we servants get to bask in the great magnificence of one of the 5 Leviathans. These maggots have captured me and have tried to stop the great return of our Lord. Zach was a little too good at acting like an actual crackhead.
Yes, you must be back with the rest of the worshippers. I will kill these worthless insects and decimate and remove the earth by our Lord's side.
Zach looked at his Rolex and smiled. The jig's up, bitch. Look behind you and die.
What?
A gigantic blade stabbed through Kalgoth's mouth, exiting towards the other side and avoiding his extremely durable exoskeleton. Kalgoth choked and very slightly stumbled to reveal the entire Task Force Nova Compass Hunter standing behind him, armed to the gums. A Korean-American guy wearing sunglasses with his hair tied into a bun was chewing a piece of gum whilst holding the blade currently lodged in Kalgoth's mouth. From behind, the undead Nazi laughed and burned Kalgoth alive as the rest of the elite fighters unleashed every single bullet they had. Kalgoth screamed in agony and swept all of his burnt tentacles in an attempt to pierce his attackers, successfully impaling Kali, Matt, and Jack, throwing them off the ship, leaving the undead Nazi and a few other members of the team to square off with Kalgoth. The Nazi swung his sword at Kalgoth, but the sword was immediately deflected and tossed aside, Kalgoth grabbing the undead Nazi with overwhelming strength and ripping his chest open, black blood pouring out as he pulled out his heart, eating it in one bite. The undead Nazi coughed up gallons of blood and laughed. He laughed and looked at his open chest, at several of his other hearts, before he took out an incendiary grenade and shoved it deep inside Kalgoth's mouth, pushing himself away and watching as the chunks of Kalgoth's head exploded, barely making him flinch. Gary spat his tobacco in Kalgoth's face. Round 2, motherfucker. The entirety of the elite task force combined with the undead Nazi fought with Kalgoth, each side getting extremely injured and healing due to their abilities. Kali ripped off Kalgoth's face and brutally stomped on it before her legs were torn off, as Kalgoth regenerated. Matt. I used a rifle mounted to my forearm guard and shoved it down Kalgoth's throat, at least firing 20 shots that would inject neurotoxins, but it did nothing. Gary was dishing out deep stabs and cuts with a machete, while Hugo was taking shots at Kalgoth's head from farther away, using a sniper rifle that could go through entire city blocks and kill 5 blue whales. Fuck. I took a giant blade out of a sheath on my suit and stabbed the monster's throat and twisted the blade as black, gooey blood spurted out onto my protective face shield before I got slammed 20 feet away. We held off Kalgoth for 5 minutes in an extremely violent battle as our special cavalry approached our ship to support us and hopefully fuck Kalgoth in the ass. Kalgoth swung one of his claws too fast for everyone to react, even with our enhanced senses, and was an inch away from decapitating me, killing me forever. But his arm suddenly stopped. It twitched, squirmed, and expanded like a balloon about to burst, and exploded into bone fragments, blood, and flesh. Well, aren't you interesting? A voice came from behind us, standing about 15 feet away from the bloody fight and floating a few inches off of the ground was a teen who couldn't have been older than 18, wearing a plate carrier over his Dossack uniform. He was well built, tall, and had slicked back brown hair with absolutely no weapons of any kind or extra gear. The kid was a very rare individual who had supernatural powers gifted by interdimensional beings and was very powerful and one of the best Marines in the branch. He was nicknamed Greeny due to being the newest official member of Dossack, but his real name was Doug.
"And who are you?"
Kalgoth screamed, and Greeny didn't even bat an eye. Me? I'm nobody. Greeny laughed. I cringed and face-palmed before they began to fight. Kalgoth instantly shot every single one of his pointed tentacles out at Greeny, who put his hand forward and closed it into a tight fist, bursting every single tendril into a giant glorious ball of black monster blood. The tentacles immediately grew back and rushed towards Greeny with immense speed, and all of them exploded. One of the bone fragments cut Greeny across the cheek. Greeny yelled, touching the cut as it bled profusely. This was very interesting. Most of the unkillables had at least some level of regeneration and extreme healing to match their other powers, but Greeny, or Doug, was an exception. We all engaged him at once. Kali, Jack, the undead Nazi, Greeny, and Hugo taking shots, deflecting attacks, violently attacking themselves and taking shots at the monster. With another unkillable on our side, Kalgoth was visibly struggling to keep up and fight us all off. In a quick flash of movement, Kali, Jack, and the undead Nazi and I held Kalgoth's main limbs down and pinned him to the ship's deck as he screeched in frustration, as Greeny ripped him into a dozen pieces with his mind powers, and the undead Nazi burned his more vulnerable insides with black flames, almost chopping his head off and finishing him off. But like something out of a bad science fiction movie or book, Kalgoth's head sprouted two humanoid and spindly arms that slammed into the ground and jumped off the ship, swimming to the ocean floor and disappearing. "Damn it!" I said. "No way in hell can we find him. Looks like he swam too far, but we wounded him." "Too bad, eh?" Gary laughed. "It's just about our lunch break right now." "Hey, kid," and turned to Greeny, who now had his feet planted on the ground out of breath. Can you do some of your magic wizard stuff and pull that fucker's head out of the sea?" "No," he said nonchalantly. "I can only move things I see. I can't manipulate objects I can't physically see." "Fuck," they said, then clapped him on the back. "Well, good job, buddy. Looks like you wounded him badly. It'll probably be a while before he can be strong enough to fight us again." Gary slapped me on the back. "Let's get the fuck out of here. I could kill for an MRE and a beer right now." I chuckled, then looked at my right leg, which was cut off. I didn't even realize it was gone. The drugs, experiments, and training had worked well enough that there were enough muscles and balance I could stand perfectly on one leg. Oh, my leg's gone. I watched as it suddenly regenerated, the halved pain subsiding immediately as the skin closed grotesquely, then smoothed out on my foot. "Damn, that gives me a weird sense of déjà vu," Greeny said. "How does a severed leg immediately growing back give you nostalgia?" Doug casually sat down on the bloody deck. "Oh, I had a friend who could do that back in grade school. I saw his bones break at least a dozen times and his arms get cut off. Yeah, he was immortal." Gary slapped me in the head. "Are you just gonna keep talking to freaking teenagers, or are we gonna go grab that beer?" Let's stop talking about going and go. You know how much it sucks working with a bunch of alcoholic maniacs? Carly asked. We headed down to the lower decks to have lunch and take a break from our suits. All in all, this fight wasn't the worst one we'd had in a long time.